We're here on the Designer tab, and in this video we're going to show you how to insert the fields and other commands that make up your form. On the Designer tab, typically what you'll see here is a list of form types, but when you double-click on a particular form type or click the Edit Form Commands button, what happens is you get to see a detailed view of that particular form, as we see here. Now, instead of showing forms, we look at the actual commands that make up this form. Starting up here, you'll see a lot of these are text fields. These are the most common types of fields. And anything that you put here will appear here in the preview window. Like the other preview windows, you can actually change the size to see how it'll appear on different screen sizes. Now, if you want to reorder fields because you put them in the wrong order or you need to move them around later, you can use these buttons to move them up and down. To delete a particular field, just click the Delete button. And to add a field, you can click the Add button. This is used for duplicating a current command. And we have Undo and Redo buttons in case you make a mistake. Let's take a look at some of the form commands that you can insert. So I'm going to go ahead and click the plus button, and a menu here appears with all of the different types of form commands. The most common type is typed text, and in fact most of the fields here on this list fall into that category. Things like first name, addresses, city, state, those will all be text fields. We also have number fields. In fact, we have a couple different kinds. We have this plain number field. We have a signed number field, which allows you to put in negative values. We have integer. We have currency. And we also have phone number. That's not really a number, it's more of a text field, but it is formatted to hold a telephone number or a mobile phone number. You can also capture the date. You can capture the date plus the time element. There's a date field or time now field here that if you click on that will actually record as soon as that button is clicked. In fact, I'll go ahead and add one of those to show you what that does. It has a set to now button. You can actually change that. Let me go ahead and delete that. We'll go back to our list of commands. There's a stopwatch. You can add pictures. You can add audio. You can add a signature. You can add a barcode scan. You could do a GPS lookup or location. You can add a list of different choices for a user to select from. And that can also be displayed as a button list. So instead of using a drop-down list where you scroll through a list of choices, you click on the button that is appropriate. This is particularly good when you're using the mobile application because it's typically much easier to push a button than it is to open up a list and make a selection. You can format your form by using headings. There are three different types. There's the group, section, and instructions. They all have different sizes and weights. They're used for different reasons. The instruction one is used when you on a particular form or field if you would like to give the user an instruction on how to fill out that particular field. When you add an instruction, it adds a little question mark next to the field that they can tap on, and when you tap that, they'll see the instructions that you left them. You can also divide longer forms up into sections or even into pages, and you have the ability to jump to particular places on a form by defining a target and using a go-to-target command to jump right to that particular target. There's a countdown if you'd prefer to count down from a certain amount as opposed to using a stopwatch, which counts up. You can add your own buttons that will execute your own TPL code. And we have these if commands, which are good ways of hiding and showing forms and form commands when certain conditions are met. So, for example, if someone answers a question in a particular way and you'd like to have a follow-up question, you'd use an if command for that. Data groups are for where you're collecting a bunch of repeating types of data. So, for example, if you were building an invoice, each invoice item would be considered a datum item within a data group. HTML lets you specify your own HTML to display here in the form. You can also set an error indicator, which you use along with the if command. And then there's blank line, which is used here just to break up your form to make it easier for you to read. It does not appear in the final product. Now, one particular command, which is very interesting, isn't a command at all. It's called the Quick Start Style Input. When I click on that, you'll see that the screen changes and it gives me a blank page here. And in here, I can actually paste in a bunch of fields. Let's say that I had in the clipboard. and they will appear here, and it'll automatically create those fields for me, as you can see here in the preview window. If I wanted to change the type of field, I can do that as well. So let's say this employee photo, we don't want that to be a text field, we want that to be a photo type field. So I just move the cursor, or click anywhere here on that line, move down to where I see photo, and I use the magic wand button to change it into a photo. The same we can do here with signature as well. When that's done, and I've made changes to my form, you can see that they are reflected here in the preview window. When I'm all set and I'm satisfied with how this is, and I'm not satisfied, I don't want to make those changes, so I'm going to click Undo. You can go ahead and click Save Commands, and if you have made any changes, your form will appear here in orange with a little note indicating that it needs to be uploaded to Transform so that it can be accessed by the filler. Let me give you an example of that. If I double-click on Delivery, and let's say I change this from Recipient First Name to simply Recipient Name, and I click Done, it's going to say Click to Save Changes. You'll also notice that it has a mark right here on the left, and when I click to Save Changes, it's now up on the Transform server, and I can now see that form in the mobile application as well as in the web form filler.